me and Twinkle are taking it a little bit easy today because we went out for a walk last night. Always have a little evening walk just around the block, a little perimeter tour. And she was just showing signs of slight discomfort, you know, a bit slower than usual, didn't want to do the steps. We were going to go, today, we were going to go to Pegston Hills, which is a lovely looking place that I drive past all the time, but I've never actually got out and walked around. But it's all very steep, and it's a fairly long walk to get around it all, so I thought we'd leave that one for today. And instead, we're in one of my favourite places, the village of Kensworth. I come here on a daily basis for various reasons. I know the place very well. Little wee there, Twinkle. Good girl, that'll tell the foxes. And looking at the map, I noticed a little footpath. And when I looked it up, it turns out that it's actually an old corpse road. So here we are, just out the back of Kensworth. We're just behind the pub, the Farmer's Boy. Just up behind them trees, there's the pub car park. Now Kensworth's one of those villages where the old village isn't actually that close to the modern contemporary village centre. That's the modern village up there. The old church, the Church of St Mary, is down this old corpse lane, and it used to be known locally as Coffin Lane. You can see these days, because of the farming, the actual practical footpath is slightly into the field, but this old ridge here, this old hump, you can see a bit of a hollow way running through it, would have been the original corpse road. And the story goes that it became a corpse road, and it became known as Coffin Lane, because people who couldn't afford a hearse used to carry the coffins this way over to the old church, which is where we're headed. We're going to go there next, in order to avoid the very sharp incline of Hollick's Lane. Now, this is Hollick's Lane over here. We can have a look at that as well. You can see that steep V in the land there, where it goes steeply down into the bottom of the valley and then steeply up the other side and off to the church. That wasn't much good for carrying a coffin. If you couldn't afford a hearse, i.e. a horse and carriage, you'd walk round this way, down the old coffin route. Much less of an incline. It's a longer way round and up and off to the end. But that's how it used to go. This is where the poor people carried their dead. I'm going to follow the track down and around, see what we find along the way. Of course, all the flights are starting up again now, aren't they? Damn it. There are 3 supposed ghosts on this corpse road, this Coffin Lane in Kensworth. The first one is supposed to be a milkmaid, and a headless milkmaid of all things. She's known to be a milkmaid because she walks around with a wooden yoke across her shoulders and a churn of milk or a bucket of milk, whatever she's using, hanging off each side, and no head. There's a couple of versions of why she's headless that I'm aware of. One of them is that she was a 19th century milkmaid who lost her head in agricultural machinery. I don't know why a milkmaid would be sticking her head in agricultural machinery, because as far as I'm aware, all they had was a stool and a bucket doing this. Certainly back in the 19th century. The other version, and this one's much better, the other version is that she was a local fair maiden who had a lover in the village, and she died of natural causes. But he was so distraught when she died that he kept her head. Apparently the rest of her was buried in the Church of St Mary, which is where we're headed. But he chopped her head off and kept it because he couldn't bear to let her go. That's a nice little tale of undying love, isn't it? Now, what was the other one? The other one was, of course, there was Shuck. Shuck, the black dog, the demonic dog with his fiery red eyes. He appears all over the country. Up north he's known as Barguest, I think, in parts of Yorkshire. I know in the northeast he's got another name which escapes me at the moment. But round here he's known as Shuck. And he's supposed to be a demonic black dog. His name goes back to an Anglo-Saxon word, skukka or stuka, which basically meant demon. And over time it got applied to this demonic black dog apparition thing that appears here, there and everywhere. Now the local variation on the story here is that he's a one-eyed, fiery-eyed black demonic dog. Now whether that means he's got this really quite impressive and scary looking centre of the forehead cyclops eye, or whether it means he looks a bit more like he's caught it on a bramble or got hit by a car and he's looking a bit forlorn and sorry for himself, I don't know. He could look a bit of a sorry sight in that case if he's a one-eyed Shuck. I'm not too worried about Shuck because I've got Twinkle. Twinkle's no sort of ferocious guard dog. I'm thinking more along the lines of, if Shuck starts going at me, I'll throw him Twinkle and Scarper. That should give me a couple of minutes headway and I'll be alright. I can't quite remember what the third one was. There was something about a black figure wandering around at night. I think that was more to do with the church itself than the corpse road that we're on at the moment. It might come back to me as we walk. We'll get over to the church, and if I've remembered, I'll tell you about that one too. I was beginning to wonder if there was any truth in this story about the corpse road, because apparently the reason this corpse road is here is that the poorer villagers who couldn't afford a horse and cart as a hearse to take their coffins to the church via the lane over there would come this way because it was much less steep, and manhandling a coffin was extremely hard work. If you were following this road here, which comes down and sharply up again, very, very steep indeed, whereas this, although steep, is a bit more manageable. I can see the truth in that. I was beginning to wonder, because this is pretty steep itself, but looking at the alternative, I can see why they might have done it this way. Makes sense. That's an unfortunate local occurrence. Goes on round here. It's pretty cruel. It's the Irish travellers who do it. There are Irish travellers in the area. And this is one of their little pastimes, setting dogs on hares. Yeah, we all know it goes on. I've never come across any evidence of it, but it's always on the local news, and it's a shame to see this sign here. Never mind. Right, we just left the old corpse road, Coffin Lane, and we're going to follow Hollick's Lane down to the church. This is Hollick's Lane, which is the road the coffin carriers, the poor people who couldn't afford a hearse, were trying to avoid. I only have to walk a few metres along here, and I can show you the hill that they were trying not to walk up. Doesn't look much fun. I've driven this a few times, well, plenty of times. It's actually a really, really nice little drive. It's quite a short road, but it goes very steeply down and then very steeply up again on the other side. That's it, Twinkle, lead the way. Now, I'm not going to go walking too far down, but if I just try and zoom in, it gets steeper and steeper and steeper. Can you imagine carrying a coffin up of that? No, thank you. And here we have the church. Church of St Mary in Kensworth. 12th century church, the bulk of it. Built in roughly 1150. And you can see the... maybe you can't from here, we'll get closer in a bit. That main bulk of the church in the middle there, that's the 1150 part of it. And it's Norman herringbone, the way that the local flint's laid out in its construction. The tower there is a later addition, that's 15th century. Made of, guess what? Tottenham stone. What else? Obviously. The obligatory yew tree, of course. The old throwback to the pagan origins of most of these old churches. I'm not going to make any claims about that particular yew tree being 5,000 years old. But bearing in mind that the church is over 900 years old, and that could well have been here before the church. Just take a guess, really. Closer look at the old Norman flint construction there. It's flint galore around here because of the chalk. I think you find that in a lot of the country. Anywhere where it's all chalk based, you also find a hell of a lot of flint. Now Kensworth itself is actually sitting amongst all the flint and the chalk on a big lump of clay. So I wouldn't mind betting that the local clay was also used as well as the flint. Now here's the Tottenham clunge. The Tottenham clunge, I said it again. The Tottenham clunch. Oh, that's funny. I'm going to have to stop saying that. The Tottenham clunch, the Tottenham stone tower. Clunge is something else entirely. I was always under the impression, actually, that Tottenham stone was mainly used for internal building, internal faces and carvings and decorations. But from what I've read, I think that's pretty much what we're looking at here. These big white blocks with the chisel marks in them. That would be the Tottenham stone, mixed in with a bit of Kensworth flint. Keep it local, eh? Lovely. I've got a funny feeling I've actually rung the bells here. Believe it or not, when I was about 12 or 13, my Saturday job was ringing bells, church bells at weddings. I was based at the old Priory in Dunstable, but we'd have little rock and roll tours where we'd go around the area and ring the bells in the local churches. I'm pretty certain that I've rung the bells here. That was a nice little earner, that was. When you're 12 or 13 years old, and bearing in mind this was the mid to late 80s, you'd ring the bells at a wedding for about 20 minutes and you get paid 15 quid for it. And you could do 3 or 4 on a Saturday afternoon during the summer. That was great for a little teenager in his Saturday job. But yeah, pretty sure I've rung the bells here. I wouldn't mind hearing them again sometime. There's really no escaping the fact, is there, that the early Christians in this country just hijacked everything that was already here. Just having a quick sit down before we walk back to the car in the village. I'm under this massive tree, which is just opposite the other side of the churchyard to that big old yew, and it's huge. It's a massive tree. I'm pretty sure, actually that's not a good example, that's a very young leaf. Don't want a young leaf, let's find one of the mature ones. Just a sec. That looks to me like the Burnham. viburnum tinus. You can see it's slightly white and hairy underneath. Very tough, waxy, evergreen leaves, wrinkled edges. That looks just like the little viburnum tinus that you see in domestic gardens all over the place, but they don't generally get very big. As you can see, if you look up there, this thing I'm sitting under is enormous. If that's a viburnum tinus, anybody who has an opinion on that leaf, let me know. I think it is. But interestingly, well, I just sat down here as well. I've sat down right next to a fallen horse's hoof fungus. So I'm presuming, yeah, if you look at the bark, that's the bark. That's the horse's hoof fungus. If you look at the bark, it is this tree that it's fallen off. I'm not going to take it home. I used to when I was a kid. I'd fill my pockets with crap like this. I'm happy just to find it now. Right, we'll take a walk back. I think I heard a bit of a demonic howl actually, just up Pollock's Lane. I heard a bit of a demonic howl, and I might have seen a pair of fiery eyes in the bushes. So I'll keep Twinkle close to me, and if I find anything exciting on the way back to the car, I'll give you a quick look. There's enough flint here to build a church. Well, I made it. We saw a shuck, size of a donkey. It wasn't very fast, it was just strong. Eye, big eye, burning like the fires of hell. It kind of mesmerised me, which inhibited my escape. I made it. Sorry, Twinkle. Needs must. Oh.